Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your questions into the comment box and I will check from time to time. I have a few words for you from my boss, J Moore Living. On Tuesday, June 6th, enjoy laughs and libations at Union Craft Brewing. Have laughs with a unique and introspective evening of interfaith comedy show, a family-friendly stand-up show starring comedians of various religions, along with a Q&A with the performers at the end of the show. Tickets are approximately $20 and include the show and one beverage. Doors open at 5 p.m. and the program begins at 6 p.m. Also, each month, J Moore Living is giving away $50 gift cards to numerous Baltimore restaurants. All this can be found at jmoreliving.com, and to enter the contest is jmoreliving.com/contest. It is my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine, Chef Nancy Longo of Pierpoint Restaurant, defender of the Chesapeake Bay. Her restaurant, Pierpoint, is like her home. She loves when you visit and enjoy her food. Boxes by Pierpoint, kids' culinary camp, specialty dinners. Her motto is, "It's my job to feed everyone." For over 30 years, she has fed Baltimore. Let's see if she's there. We're having some technical difficulties. Okay, can you hear me, Nancy?
I certainly can.
Okay. We have a slight delay, so I will pause and wait for your answers. What's on your plate
Okay.
today?
Well, we sat here last night and finished out the guest list for our dim sum number 3. It started out as a dinner that we were doing for the Chinese New Year. And it was so successful that the guests asked if we would do it again. So we mash up all kinds of Asian food and they do not know the menu and they come. So you know about this, but other folks may not. But Pierpoint does these dinners, and the dinners where 24 people could be invited. And there is a theme. Sometimes you know the menu, sometimes you don't. And you sign up in advance and we feed you multiple courses of things. Sometimes we do them with documentaries and movies at the bar. But we are now working on a rum dinner and a Harry Potter dinner for the next foreseeable 2 dinners that we're doing.
I saw those. I'm a great supporter of those dinners and can tell you if you're lucky enough to get one of the spots, you should grab it because it's a great deal, great food. And it's done in a very social situation. A lot of times it's one big table for all of us. So you're communicating and communal dining, and it makes it great fun, good food. Um, you mentioned Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter meal and cocktails. I mean, what could be on the menu?
Well, typical Harry Potter food would be typical English food. So there are going to be some meat pies, and there will be some other desserts. Obviously, what is that? Butterbeer is one of the things that's involved in that menu. But we are working on some stuff, and obviously there would be haggis and those kinds of things also on the menu. So we didn't completely finish, but also they had bouillabaisse on the menu from there. No, multiple Harry Potter cookbooks. I found that out last evening, but I was working on this with a friend who comes in, is a big Harry Potter fan.
Well, that
So that's
sounds
the
like
plan.
fun. I just let people know that Nancy and I got together and we did a dinner for the Julia movie. People came in. It was only 10 seats at the bar, and it was a multi-course dinner. And then we did Anthony Bourdain. And we still haven't done the one with Charlie Trotter. What was it
That is
called?
correct. We are still planning on doing that Charlie Trotter documentary. I have perused it, and I have multiple friends who were very good friends with Charlie, and having met him, it's a very it's a very compelling story about a chef, and the fact of the matter is that his level of excellence and what he expected from himself more than anyone and everyone else around him was just utterly amazing. And the fact that he also was so regimented, and I had a lot of respect for the man. But it's also amazing that his illness and the things that happened to him caused him such a sad story towards the end. And it's a great movie for people that want to understand the drive of a chef and understand what we put ourselves through every day. I think so many people just think, oh, you're just going there and cook food and you're going to enjoy yourself, but it's so much more complicated than that. It's the entire experience. And we do this because we want you to love our food, and we do it because we want to feed you, and we also just want to give you an enjoyable experience. So it's a very, very good movie. And we're planning on doing that one, so we'll tell you when that 10 seats are up, because we don't that is a bar one for 10 seats for people who are serious foodies, because we do recreate some of Charlie's dishes at the bar. And I'm happy to watch it again with anyone. I watched it at home by myself and texted the friends who were in the movie and knew him. So it's a very very moving story.
Yes, Norman Van Aken, who's been on the show, and has Norman's, which just opened up down in Orlando. Is it Orlando? Charlie came in and worked for him, did a stagiaire when he was down in Key West. So as not to get too crazy, I want people to understand Pierpoint Restaurant. How long has the restaurant been open here in Baltimore?
It's going to be in October 34 years, which is really, really, it's a long time. 1989 we opened, and we have 36 seats, and the intention has always been to be able to make Maryland food in a modern atmosphere. Although I have a background in Asian food, so we do have those kinds of things on the menu. But I oftentimes, when it's quiet in here, because sometimes we deal with the plight of being downtown, we will make things that are based on what you'd like to eat. For instance, I had a big table the other evening, and I took all their menus away from them and asked them what they like to eat, and proceeded to cook them multiple courses. But the only way you can do that is in a tiny restaurant. So, that's the thing I like to tell people. Everybody wants to go to these big places and they like all that stuff and the razzle dazzle. But you know what? There is definitely something to be said for us little guys who just want to have an enjoyable evening with you and cook you things that we have in the building that you might enjoy. And this particular group has been here before, so they know what to expect and what they're going to get, because we're going to always bring them something that they may not have had, and that's what brings me lots of joy.
And it is joy for you and for those who come. I was just down there for Preakness. It was a group of us at the bar. We watched Preakness. You had a little buffet of your crab cakes, which brings me to another point. Okay, Baltimore's known for crab cakes, but what Nancy created a number of years ago is very unique. So I want to ask you, where did the inspiration come from? Nancy does a regular crab cake, which is luscious, but she also does a smoked crab cake. Where did that inspiration, how did that come about?
In 1985, I was approached by the Federal Hill Society to recreate the um, picnic that they had for the naming of Federal Hill. So I went to see this woman who was a Maryland food historian. And I went to University of Maryland and looked through some books that were disintegrating. And I started reading stuff about food. Of course, Maryland is a fascinating state because on the Eastern Shore we have some parts of it that are very English, and then of course in Annapolis all the food creating there was all French, and then everything here on this side of the bridge primarily was German, but there was English parts to it. But one of the things that fascinates me was the fact that smoking was used as a preservative. And so I was working then in a restaurant called Something Fishy, and the owner had bought a smoker, and I said, I'm going to put everything that's not nailed down in that. And we made this smoked crab cake, and it took on the quality of like a sherry or a bourbon. So if you like that kind of alcohol, then you're going to like this crab cake. But the weird thing is that the crab meat, because of that preservative quality from being smoked, lasts 4 or 5 more days than it would normally if you just put it in the refrigerator. You can only smoke, of course, seafood with certain kinds of woods because they will really taste like an ashtray otherwise. So we only use pecan twigs, cherry, or apple woods. Mesquite and all those other ones are way too heavy, even if you were going to use it for like soft shells or if you were going to use it for any other stuff. It's just way too heavy. So that's where that came from, and it's been part of our people here at the restaurant for the last 34 years, and 3 years prior to that at Something Fishy. So it's been around for a long time, and it was mocked and duplicated by plenty of other restaurants for a while, which I thought was kind of cool. But it is a thing that we do, and people do come here with the thought of that. So we're going to keep it up.
In fact, we were talking, was it last night or yesterday sometime, I lose track of time, that the Baltimore Sun is doing your top this, your top breakfast place, your top this, the top crab cakes, and that Pierpoint is nominated for the top crab cake. And it's been a while, so somebody said, why aren't you doing this? But I must say to the people in Baltimore, Nancy's well loved, and we have a number of people watching this show and sending in comments as we talk, that going to Pierpoint, you can sit at the bar, you can come in and order the dinner. One of the things that I feel like, there's a little couch. I've gotten to know her friends. It's like she doesn't invite you to her house. You're invited to the restaurant, which is really her home. She spends 95% of her life there. So, go in, enjoy the camaraderie that you have there, the ability with an independent to say, I can't handle this. Are you still doing the Tuesday to Thursday bar dinners?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of fascinating during the pandemic. A lot of the older customers moved out of the neighborhood. They moved in with their kids, moved out of state, and we have a huge new population of younger folks that have moved in the neighborhood. And of course, they've recently found us, and so they're the ones who come and do that. They come and do that Tuesday through Thursday thing, which is guys, it's a deal. So if you feel like leaving the county, or if you live down here and you're seeing this, you need to come over and see it. Challenge me making some kind of pasta day. I know I look like the redheaded Irish girl. I'm not even Irish, I'm Scottish, but I am half Italian, and I do like a little challenge also every day with the pasta. I laugh when we do the linguine with clam sauce. I have to let everybody know because those 10 seats are immediately taken up for that. It's my favorite thing to make. But as a matter of fact, a
Right.
bunch of the people in the neighborhood are British, and we did something for the coronation for Charles, and half of the population that came for the event were all British folks who moved to Fells Point, which is kind of cool. But we like to do those kinds of things. So we went to make a party out of everything. But that's probably also because I have this love for New Orleans, and that's my favorite place, where one of those things where they do is just make a party out of everything. So this is a very unique place for some folks who want some kind of other dining than just going to the regular restaurant. We always have something going on here.
Right. To remind people to stay updated, Pierpoint Restaurant and Catering on Facebook. The website is pierpointrestaurant.com. The bar menu dinners Tuesday through Thursday give you multiple choices. $15 if you want pasta. Chef will whip up what you want. I missed the last linguine and clams. Got posted after the fact, and people who know me know that it's like one of my favorite dishes next to lobster. I want to talk about, for a number of years, I know it's over 20 years, you do in the summer a culinary kids camp where the kids come in, you're with them for 8 hours. Please explain what you do, because this is a very popular thing, and the kids have gone on to many different things after taking your classes.
So, anyone that knows me has known me for a long time. At some point in time, I was an instructor at the Baltimore Culinary School, and prior to that, here's a little roll back to Dara here in 1990. Dara got me to do some classes here in the restaurant for folks. So that's always been in my blood. But I did a class for my high school, which sadly is now closed, IND, to raise some money for them. And I realized that I had set off something that I could do with kids. The following year, we started that program in here. So it's now been 22 years that we've done this program with the kids. Some of the kids come here because money has been donated for them to be here, but they're interested in doing this for a living. And some of them or their parents have the money, and the kids are very, very much interested. I will tell you that I won't mention names, but there are a lot of chefs in this city who've sent their kids to me because their kids said, no, I'm not going to learn from my dad or from my mom. So we bring them in here and then we teach them fundamental things. But I set the classes up very similar to the way I taught professionally. And they're here, they're using restaurant equipment. They're not making, pink pancakes and, Mickey Mouse things. They are learning to cook food in the style in which they should learn as an adult. So we have French classes, we have barbecue classes, we have classes where the kids learn to actually cut meat and chickens and make their own pasta. So all of these things are exactly what I would teach an adult. They do come. Some kids come for more than 1 week. Some kids come more than one summer. Some kids think they want to come for a week and then they had such a good time they come for another week. But it is completely hands-on, and we limit it to 10 kids. We do not want to have an experience where the kids are overloaded with way too many kids in the room so that they don't get the attention they need. We teach your children how to use a knife. I laughed many years ago. Somebody wrote a thing into Elizabeth Large about the restaurants and the cooking class, and she said, oh, I guess these restaurants think they need to find another way to make a revenue. Someone wrote back and said, really? Because my kid went there and they learned how to make an omelet, and now I don't have to get up and worry about them burning the house down Saturday morning when they're making breakfast. So I feel like I won. And then I had a bunch of kids that have gone on to go to culinary school. A couple of them come back to work for me. So it's a very rewarding thing. And I do like teaching the kids because they're sponges. They don't know anything about anything. And I'm often amazed when we get kids who have not had a background, learned anything about cheese, and then you teach them how to make cheese sauces or teach them about sushi or how to cook fish properly. It's very rewarding. So it is something that has definitely been a part of my life and will continue to be. So I enjoy that. We're going to start in a couple of weeks, and I'm ready for the kids to come here. I love that summer energy with them.
Yeah. Do you still have some openings for a summer camp?
We do. I think that there are some openings for like week 3 and week 4, week 1. But I think the rest of them later in the summer are pretty close to full at this point. And actually, right before we went on air, I had some parents calling, still trying to get their kids in. So, I mean, it is, but it's a good thing. So the kids are here while they're here. By the way, they're here all day. They make their own lunch. They learn table etiquette and all that kind of stuff that they do as a family here. But they all get sent home with food for their parents. So if you send your kid here to learn how to cook, you're going to get dinner for a week. Unless you send them to a gym,
Right.
which
Right.
you're going to
And,
want chocolate for
and,
dinner.
and that's usually because you do run cooking classes for adults, and I've been benefit of it. It's just fun to do. It's hands-on. It's not one of these things where you watch people, or you're not given a menu, or you're taught. But by the time you go home, you are loaded up with food, plenty of food. And if Nancy doesn't send you home with food, there's something wrong, because she always does. There's
My
always bountiful.
my line with them is, if you leave here and you tell anybody that I didn't feed you or you didn't get any food, I will definitely hunt you
Yeah.
down. So that's a good thing, you know. And I say that as we sit here on Jaymore, and I'm saying, you know, there's two groups of people that understand that, and that's folks who grew up in a Jewish family or people that grew up in an Italian family. There's always too much food, but it's a beautiful thing because it was a family way for you all to come together and eat great things. So I can't let it slip out of my blood. Stop doing it. So it is my thing.
I started off the show, and I don't know if you heard it or not. In my intro, I said defender of the Chesapeake Bay. And even though you've done the show a couple times before, some of the people never heard the story. But how many years ago was your big event to fundraiser to save the Chesapeake Bay? 20
So
years?
I got a lovely scar here. I had a lymphatic infection from some cleaning some fish, and I became very irate about it. And I met with the folks from the Chesapeake Bay Trust, and I decided that I was going to help try to raise some awareness through some chefs. So the program was called CRAB, Chefs and Restaurateurs Advocates of the Bay. And I brought in 10 chefs and 10 restaurants from Baltimore who I knew were serious about the point of getting
Environment.
understand how important it was to keep the bay clean and the garbage out of it and all those great things. And we raised all this money. We did it for a couple of years in a row, and the chefs were here. And Paul Prudhomme said, if you can't clean that one up, how can you clean the rest of them? Alice Waters, I didn't know from Adam, but I wrote her a letter and she said, I'm there. So it was pretty awesome that you were there. I mean, these chefs were definitely committed to this. And most of them were all from coastal states where they just realized the importance of keeping that stuff clean. And so I'm still a big advocate of that. Matter of fact, I did a wedding for a couple 2 weeks ago, and the gal works for a company that cleans plastic out of oceans. And she was like, I went with you because I know how much you care about this. And you promised not to bring me 1 ounce of plastic. We didn't. We had 100-year-old china for them. It was beautiful. But that is my thing. And it is a very important thing because most people don't realize that the seafood is not regulated by like USDA as they do with meat and poultry. So sadly, I could go to the harbor and pull something out of that water and sell it to you tonight. And that's a really bad idea. But it's still a big passion of mine.
How many years? It had to be what, 20 years ago, 22 years
Oh,
ago?
it was 1992, so and 93, so it was 30 years ago that we did those dinners.
Right. And in those days, it wasn't the local chefs paired with what at that time were renowned chefs, Paul Prudhomme, Alice Waters, who was Texas. Can't think of the
Stephen Pyle,
names.
Stephen Piles was the chef from.
Else.
Hmm.
Right. These were all leading chefs of the day. And Alice Waters, I think you once said, if Alice Water comes, the rest will come. And that's what they
It's
did.
true.
And
And
folks,
Paul was my friend, and he just basically said, Nancy, I live in a coastal area, and I had done some stuff with him about crawfish farming over at the Federal Trade Commission in D.C. with him. So he knows how much I cared about that. I'd say he knows he's passed. You want to talk about a crazy chef funeral? When Chef died, it was a 2 mile long second line in New Orleans. That was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen because everyone loved his food. But he said, I need to come and I need to do this with you. Is that important? So,
yes.
we forget about that. We've made strides also in these oyster farming stuff here, but at some point in time, the natural part of the Chesapeake Bay, whew, supplied 75% of the oysters to the entire United States. Think about that one. And then we went to nothing. So we really need to continue to fight for every ounce of that water to be cleaned. And when we have these years where we have like no snow or ice in the winter, I don't think people realize this is an interesting little piece here. So crabs like to live and they need a lot of oxygen and they need clean water. So if we don't have any of that, it's kind of like a chef. You make a raft on the top of a stock and it pushes all the impurities out. So if we don't have any ice or snow and a warm winter, then the stuff comes in and then we have a problem with the fish and the crabs not being able to hatch in the water, so that it creates a problem for them. So I don't know what kind of summer we're going to have for the crabs, but it's kind of disturbing to me. It seemed like we had so many days in February, it was 50 some degrees, which is way too warm for this stuff, when we're thinking about that. But it's a very important thing for a chef as well as a consumer who loves what they love from that water out there to have what they need. So I'm going to continue to fight.
Well, I think we all just pick something to fight for people, something to stand up for. And if you don't know much about oysters, oysters are a filter for the bay.
Correct.
And the less oysters we have, the dirtier the bay is. They're just a natural filter to clean the bay. Let me get to my typical end of show questions, and we'll talk. People, go to Pierpoint. Just keep track. Go to the special events. If you're free on Tuesday through Thursday, come in. You sit at the bar. Great opportunity there. Special parties, catering, weddings. There isn't anything I think Nancy hasn't done in food. So don't let what we've said limit you. Call her if you have a food question or need something done. She can take care of you. All right. So my last questions are, what was your best bite this week?
What was the best bite that I had this week? Some Greek food. I only eat ethnic food when I go out to eat because I just feel like I need to have a bit of that all the time.
So what was it? I didn't.
I had some wonderful lamb kebabs at Sammo's, so it was good.
Okay. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Have more patience and study more.
And once before I ask you what your ultimate culinary fail was, so I'm going to skip that unless you want to address it again. Maybe the answer's changed.
I don't remember what I said to you, but I remember one time in here we had these wonderful little corn pancakes that come on the menu with that smoked crab cake. And idiot me wasn't paying attention, and it's supposed to have a little bit of sugar in it. I accidentally did salt. It was the most inedible thing I've ever made in my entire life. And I felt really horrible when some customer had it. I was like, dear Lord, please.
Well, that wasn't it. I can't remember. I just recently listened to it,
Well,
but
we've all had more than one. If you stick around in this business, you're going to have more than one.
one right. And you're not the first chef to talk about that they use salt instead of sugar, believe me. Rodney from Dangerous Delicious Pies, whatever, he talked about some girls came in, he made a pecan pie, and it was all salt. So, yeah.
He and I had a mash up corned beef and cabbage pocket pie back in St. Patrick's Day. It was hysterical. The pair of us did this together. It was fun at both places.
If you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would it be? I think I know, but go ahead.
Well, when I said something about being, impetuous, and when I was younger, I originally was going to go to school to be a theater set designer. So maybe I would have been doing that instead if that was not what I'm doing now. People that have been to my house, and you've been to my house, you've seen the furniture and the craziness, and the Sun Paper did a story about it once, know that I'm constantly changing the furniture and the stuff in my house. So it's a love of mine. So
Well, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to shorten a long story. There was a regular game that was a food competition, and we did it at Nancy's. Baltimore Magazine came in and photographed it. but the only stove you had was like a 1920 stove, and there was snow on the ground. And we were storing stuff in containers out in the snow because you didn't have a big refrigerator because you're always at the
No,
restaurant. And then the water wasn't working. You were washing dishes in the bathtub. It was so
there's
funny.
a very funny picture of that. That 100-year-old stove is still in my home. So if I ever leave there, the next person that gets it is going to have to love it because it's traveled with me to 3 different homes, and it's a fabulous stove, and I still have it, and I have no reason to get rid of it. But no, all the refrigerators in my house are all under the counter. They're like drawers. I treat my house like the restaurant, so the
Right.
dishwasher, everything, all under the counter of all the counter space. But that
And
was funny. Yes, you were there, and there are photos from that event.
right, I think we recreated it on the Facebook page. It might have been the night of tequila, but
Yes,
that's
yes.
you have to check other
Hey,
shows. Yeah,
yes.
6 shots of tequila and they drove me home. Um,
Well, but I've enlightened
what?
you on the tequila.
Yes, I'm a more informed tequila drinker. I wasn't a drinker at all. What didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
um, do I want to do this forever? And the answer is yes. So there's your answer. There's your question.
Okay, because you want to feed people. I think your quote was, my motto is, it's my job to feed everyone.
It is. And that is
I
my
want to
motto.
I want to thank you, Nancy, so much, and especially for jumping in. Always a good friend, and I look forward to my next time down there. I don't know which special event it'll be, or if it's the specials from Tuesday to Thursday at the bar. Maybe linguine and clams, or
Anytime.
maybe you come up here and we go out for one of those $17 lobsters. How about that?
When I like our dim sum days.
Okay. My big moi, love you, love you. And I have a couple things to cover here. Thank you so much, Nancy. Okay, everyone. Next week's guest is Hiroko Shimbo. Hiroko has been working for years to bring you authentic and modern Japanese cuisine through award-winning cookbook, hands-on cooking classes at cooking schools like the CIA, culinary events, consultations, conferences, once-in-a-lifetime culinary and cultural tours to Japan, which we're going to be talking about, and instructional cooking videos. What better way to learn Japanese culture and food is with her new tour in Kyushu. Going to come back to my boss, Jay Moore. We have the event, which is Laughs and Libations, coming up June 6th on Tuesday at Union Craft Brewing. Have laughs and a unique introspective evening with interfaith comedy show. Tickets are just about $20. It includes the show and one beverage. Doors open at 5 p.m. The program begins at 6 p.m. Also, each month, Jay Moore will be giving away $50 gift cards to numerous Baltimore restaurants. All can be found on jmoreliving.com, and about the contest, jmoreliving.com/contest. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at my email address, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or Instagram is @DaraCooks. All shows are immediately archived in video form on Jay Moore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. Feel free to dig into our video archives of past shows. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always remain full.